Hi. Nowadays, everyone is talking about new capabilities that we have discovered during COVID pandemic. One of the competencies they talk of is resilience. Second is empathy. Third is an ability to care for others, dignity of human beings, generosity, gratefulness, a whole lot of other kind of things. Also, another term that is used is agility. I think this is the wisdom that we have developed across a period of time. Quite often, a question is asked, how do I develop empathy or how do I develop resilience? Is it possible to develop at all? I think it is possible to develop. Otherwise, we are not, there is no HRD. The HRD believes that every human being has unlimited capability. And if you want to develop, I think the first thing that you need to do is to decide to develop. I have come up with an interesting model, 7-step model of development. Step 1 is first of all to identify the capability that you want to develop, competence you want to develop. For example, resilience. What it means to be resilient in the kind of circumstances in which you are. All the terms that you find in competency language or quality language or attribute language or trait language or psychometric testing language are all concepts. It is very important to understand the context in which that particular concept can be developed. Resilience for a lift operator is different than a resilient for a barber or a vegetable vendor or for a junior officer in a bank or for the managing director of a company or for owner. First, I think you need to understand the dimensions of resilience. So step 1 is to identify the competence that you want to build. Step 2 is to elaborate on the particular concept and accept the indicators of the concept in terms of what it means to you. That means you delineate the concept. So step 1 is to identify, step 2 is to accept and delineate the concept. Then step 3 is intentions to act. Once you have identified various dimensions, or what we call in our psychometric testing and assessment centers language as indicators, behavior indicators. Once you identify the behavior indicators, then you should decide to act on it. That is what we call as intentions to act. This is stage 3. So stage 1 is to identify, 2 is to accept and delineate, stage 3 is intentions to act. Now stage 4 is simple, act, experiment and act. You need to keep on trying it out. Now you don't have to try out too frequently, but you try out to such a level that you are convinced that you can do it and it is advantageous and it is good for you, good for whatever, and it achieves the purposes that you talked of. So this is the 4th step. Identify, accept and delineate, intend to act, and actually act and experiment. Then comes the 5th stage, that is the final decisions. Once you have experimented and experienced the advantages of it and you know that you can do it, you now take a final decision, prepare a plan, and you determine and say that I am going to be exhibiting this particular kind of a quality. These are all the indicators. I will keep trying. I think you work out a plan of action. So that is your decision, deciding and acting to practice. Then comes the 6th stage, that is you practice. Once you decide and plan, implement the plan, execute the plan, practice and practice. Up till such time you feel that you have mastered resilience, you have mastered empathy. Every time you come across another person or a situation, you are more empathetic now, or you are more humane now, or you express your gratitude for all those people who helped you to do whatever you have become. So this is the 6th stage. Then comes the final stage. Once you have practiced and you have internalized it, the last one is actually mastering it. Internalize and master the entire kind of a practice, and that is where I think people like Noel Tichy keep talking about you develop a point of view, now you can start talking about it. You master that. So you therefore perfected it, as you are now a resilient kind of a person. You are not only resilient, you are sharing experiences, you are talking about it, you have mastered it, you have internalized it. That is the way to develop. Of course, there is no end for improving on the resilience or empathy. I think you can constantly keep on developing, keep reviewing, seek feedback, and do a whole lot of things. Let me remind you once again the 7 steps. Step 1 is to identify. Step 2 is to accept and delineate. Step 3 is starting with an intention to act. Step 4 is actually acting, testing it out, experimenting. Step 5, final decision and an action plan to start this particular kind of a competence you have acquired. And 6th is to keep practicing, practicing and practicing. Along with practice, you can review, see the implications. And the last one, master it, talk about it, teach about it, and so on. That's the way to develop. It's a long run process, but once you identified a competence and you want to develop it, you can do wonderful things. So I want to wish you from TVRLS all the best. Some of our programs at TVRLS help you sometimes to identify, sometimes to assess, sometimes to practice, and so on. My team has just completed a 3-day weekend, 3-day evening online program on developing individual development plans. I'm sure, I think some of these kind of skill-based programs will help you to acquire many of these competencies. All the best from TVRLS.